Hello everyone. Welcome to the Jesus-Centered Life Conference. My name is Rosal and I'll be sharing with you today how it is to be single, happy, and holy. So currently, I'm an instructor of theology at Ateneo and I'm also teaching in San Carlos Seminary and Don Bosco School of Theology. So when I was studying in theology, one of the groundbreaking learnings that I had was John Paul II's Theology of the Body. One of the nice things about TOB that really stuck with me was it was not just only a catechesis on conjugal love and marriage, but it can also teach you about who you are, about your place in this world, and what God is ultimately calling all of us to be and calling us to do. One of the things that I liked about it is the concept of original solitude. So John Paul II says that before the fall, in Genesis, man was in perfect communion with God. And man had three original experiences. The original experience of solitude, the original experience of unity, and the original experience of nakedness. So original solitude, original unity, and original nakedness. Let's go to original solitude because the concept of original solitude can really help us understand how it is to be a happy and holy single. So in the garden, when God created the human person, in the first chapter of Genesis, we find that the human person was made in the image and likeness of God. Man and woman, He created them. But then you go to the second chapter of Genesis, and then you find another version of the creation story. And in this second account of creation, the writers of Genesis now look into the human person's experiences in the garden. So here we find now the three original experiences. In the second chapter of Genesis, Adam was created first before Eve. And that does not necessarily mean that man is above woman, but it should be seen in 2 points. So, firstly, what does original solitude mean? When God created Adam, and Adam here now, in the second chapter of Genesis, before the existence of Eve, represented entire human race. So, in short, you and I. So when God created Adam, He gave Adam the mandate to be a steward of all his created realities. And another thing, He asked Adam to go around and name all these creatures. How did Adam recognize that he was alone? So when he went around the garden, try to imagine the scene. He went around the garden and he saw the ostrich and called it ostrich. He saw the polar bear and called it polar bear, and then gave a name to this tree, probably an apple tree, or this fish he sees in a lake and calls it tilapia. Because tilapia in Filipino is my favorite fish. So Adam now goes around the garden, names all these animals. What did he realize? At the end of the day, he probably just told himself, oh gosh, I'm the only creature that can think. I'm the only creature that has a higher level of learning, a higher level of thinking, that can name all these things. I have feelings. I can feel sad. I can feel happy. And I'm alone. In all of these things. And here is God. What does it say about Adam in the first point of original solitude? Adam is now made, firstly, to be in a special relationship with God. Adam saw how special he was because he could think this way. He could freely choose. He can feel this way. The dog cannot do it. The tree couldn't do it. The cloud couldn't do it. It was only Adam. And then probably Adam felt love because he felt special. How do we relate that to us? Well, when you look at you, all your quirks, all the beautiful things about you, when you look at your face in the mirror, when you check your inner self and check out what you're good at, your talents, let's go to the scientific part of us, that each of us would have a unique DNA. What's it say about you? That in the past and in the future, there will be no other you. You will be alone. You're the only one who will exist as you. There will be no other Lian in the future. When you go way past my birth, there was no Lian. Just like the Lian that you see today and hear today. That makes you unique, unrepeatable, according to John Paul II. That makes you special. And that should tell you how infinitely loved you are by God. How He willed you into existence because He loves you. And so, we now go to the second point of solitude. That after naming all these animals, God saw that Adam was alone. And that he needed someone beside him, a helper fit for him. And so he created Eve. The moment that Adam awoke, the moment that from a deep sleep Adam opened his eyes and he saw Eve, he exclaimed, "At last, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh." It's as if when suddenly you find the person who you will be with for the rest of your life, if your vocation is marriage, you finally exclaim on your wedding day, "I do." That would be that experience of unity in the garden, original unity. But let's go back to original solitude in these 2 points. The 2 points that TOB is teaching us about us being single is that, number 1, the experience of solitude allows us to see how we are in a special relationship with our Creator. There was even one point in the second account of Genesis when even before the creation of Eve, God already told Adam, "You are to eat of anything here except one fruit in a particular tree. And if you do that, you will die." And when Adam heard about death, then he realized how limited he was. How he was just a mere creature before this God, but yet he was special and he was loved. And what does it say about us? God sees us despite how we see ourselves. God willed us into existence. God loved us. God called us beloved. And rightly so, because the experience of Adam in solitude would actually communicate to us that above all our relationships, the primordial relationship is you and God. That even before you become in a relationship with another person, romantic relationship, platonic relationship, the first relationship that you should establish is that of an intimate and personal, conscious relationship with God. Why? I would like to imagine that before Adam said, "Bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh," this is this person who I love. Even before he loved Eve, he already learned what love was. because he was in an intimate, personal, conscious relationship with God, who is love, and who now taught Adam how to love. In your single life, make the most out of being single by being in a relationship with God, who will ultimately teach you who you are, and in discovering your identity, in being solid with you calling yourself God's beloved, then you can also be able to love others as well as a consequence of that. Remember that Adam was first in a relationship with God, and in a way, when God taught him how to love, he was able to look at Eve without lust. He was able to look at Eve with eyes of true love. Let's go to the second point. Single, and the second point would be happy. Originally, in the Garden of Eden, God intended that man would live in perfect happiness. And this happiness, this joy, stems from man being in a communion with God. Man was one with God. Sin was not yet there because the disobedience did not happen yet. And before the fall, Adam was in a perfect communion with God. Adam and Eve were in a perfect communion with God. And that brought them joy. There was perfect happiness in the garden. There was no existence of death yet. There was no existence of pain and suffering. There was just joy. And what happened? Well, we know what happened next. When they disobeyed God, sin existed, death happened, and so did pain. And even if that happened to the human person, even if at the moment we feel broken, even if we feel wounded, even if we feel shadows looming over us, as part of us being fallen, God still planted in the human heart a way by which we can be happy. And planted in the human heart the desire and the longing to be happy. That's why, we want to be happy. We seek happiness in many things, in many ways. And probably you being single, what you might think is that you can only be ultimately happy if you are in a romantic relationship with another person. But, when you go to the idea of original solitude and in these original experiences, the fact remains that ultimate happiness can only be found when you are one with God, when you are in a relationship with God, and everything else becomes secondary. When we are in a relationship with God, when we follow the footsteps of Christ, when we become a disciple of Jesus, and when we give our life to Him, then we experience happiness. That's why I remember Father Robert Barron saying in his documentary Catholicism that when you look at Jesus on the cross, He is the perfect example of happiness. He's the embodiment of the Beatitudes, ways by which one can be happy. So when you look at Jesus on the cross, you find an image of happiness. And so if you want to be happy and single, then maybe at this point of being single, instead of looking for happiness in so many things, why not find happiness where you are at the moment? When you have a relationship with God, when you have a relationship with Christ, you can better yourselves where you are. And you can find that happiness is just within reach. Happiness could be talking to a friend. Happiness could be a cup of coffee. Happiness could be looking at the sun and marveling at its beauty. We can choose to be happy every single day. And there are always things around us that God sends us, people around us that can teach us how to be happy. And that we can be happy even if we're still single and finding ourselves. The last point would be wholeness, holiness. Before I thought holiness was the absence of sin. But later on, I realized that Loneliness is just simply the continuous struggling to love. And it's me getting better each and every day, accepting my weaknesses, accepting my wounds, seeing my brokenness as something beautiful and redeemed by Jesus when He died on the cross. And despite me being imperfect, I can always choose to love. And I will always choose Jesus. And in my constant fiat, in my constant yes, like Mary, of choosing God, then God now forms me into becoming whole, into becoming holy. So holiness is not the absence of sin. It's the continuous struggle to love and the continuous struggle to be better. How can you be single, happy? One tip would be, at this point of being single, then better yourself. Try so many things that can make you grow. Things that are good, of course. Try to develop your talents. Try to find who you are by having good friends, by being in a community of faith, by having a solid prayer life, finding happiness in the little things every single day, finding joy in the present moment. And if married life is indeed for you, then one day you'll just wake up. And suddenly, you will find that person. And you can exclaim just like Adam, finally, here you are, the love of my life, bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. But if like me, you desire to remain single for the kingdom, or you do decide to go to the religious vocation and offer your life as a sister or a nun, then that actually just shows that the way to become happy and holy when you're single is not really having a romantic relationship. It will still boil down to the primordial relationship that we're all called to have. And that is a relationship with God. I have one story to share, one last thing also to share with you. Recently, when I got tested for COVID in a major hospital here in the Philippines, I found myself alone with so many couples around me while waiting for my turn in the ER. Of course, human as I was telling God, Lord, wouldn't that be nice if I would have a hand to hold while I'm getting the swab test? Because that's painful. And suddenly, there was just a tinge of sadness. Not something very overwhelming. And when I went to the swab station, suddenly, fear got over me. And I was telling God, Lord, I wish I had someone beside me. And then all of a sudden, the hospital speakers played the song of a favorite band that I'm standing at the moment. And the lyrics of the song goes this way. Shining through the city with a little funk and soul, light it up like a dynamite. And so, it was as if God was telling me, it was just like a message from heaven, and God telling me, no, Leah, you're not alone. I'm here with you. And I will find ways to console you. I'll find ways to make you feel loved. I'll find ways to make you feel that you're not alone. And, that you and me together in this life, being in a relationship with each other, we can be just like that BTS song, that when you have me in your life, you can shine through the city with a little funk and soul, and with the love that you carry within you, being single, happy, and holy, you can light up others' lives like a dynamite. I pray that you will also find the joy in being in a relationship with God. Being single is not a disease. But being single at this point in your life can be one of the happiest stages that you could be in. only if you would find happiness where you are and you will constantly choose and struggle to love or holy. God bless you.